Welcome, Tire Mind. Welcome to the Sleep Weaver, your sanctuary for deep and effortless rest. Tonight, we commit to leaving all the noise, all the demands, and all the urgency of the day entirely behind us. There is nothing left for you to do now, except to rest. Just settle in, find your perfect place of comfort, and allow your shoulders to drop fully. Take a slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, notice the sense of peace that begins to gather around you. If you wish to return to this quiet space easily, please feel free to subscribe now, before you drift off. There are no more demands here. There is only the beautiful, quiet journey inward. You may now gently close your eyes, if you haven't already, and then follow the sound of my voice as we begin to slow down and sink into deep, safe rest. The storm arrived without warning. It slipped into Harrow Creek on a wind that rattled every shutter on Juniper Road. Elena Ward sat at her kitchen table in darkness, listening to rain hammer the roof. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but she held a cup anyway. Sleep wasn't coming. It rarely did. The town was quieter than usual, even for Harrow Creek. Nights here belonged to the sound of branches scraping windows, the distant groan of abandoned mines, and her own thoughts. Tonight, though, the air buzzed with tension. The knock came at 2:14 a.m. Sharp, urgent, not the kind that waits politely. Elena closed her eyes briefly. Let be some drunk looking for the wrong house. But something in that knock told her otherwise. She stood. Her joints cracked in the silence. She crossed the small living room, paused, and reached under the couch cushion for her revolver. She flipped the safety, tucked it at her side, and cracked open the door. A woman stood on her front step, soaked to the skin. Her blonde hair clung to her face in tangled ropes. She couldn't have been more than 25. Wide gray eyes flicked past Elena into the house, afraid. "Are you Elena Ward?" she asked, breath trembling. "That depends on who's asking. My name is Mara. I need your help. My brother is missing." Elena exhaled slowly. She'd heard those words before. Back in the city, back when she still had a badge. People always said missing with the same look Mara had now. Hope mixed with dread. "Come inside," Elena said. The woman hesitated, scanning the dark road behind her, then stepped in. Elena shut the door and slid the bolt into place. Mara wrapped her arms around herself, shivering. "I didn't know where else to go. The sheriff won't listen. Nobody here will. They all know something, but they won't say it." Elena studied her carefully. Something didn't add up. Mara's accent wasn't local. Her story was spilling out too fast, like someone who'd rehearsed their lines. "How long has your brother been missing?" 2 days. His name is Jonah. Jonah Hale. He's 17. He went hiking near the old hospital grounds and never came home." Elena felt a flicker of unease. The old hospital, of all places. What makes you think something happened to him? Mara swallowed hard. "Because Jonah isn't stupid. He doesn't just vanish. He would have called me unless he couldn't." Elena motioned for her to sit. "Did you go to Sheriff Brigg?" "Yes. And he told me to stop wasting his time. He said Jonah is probably at some party. But Jonah doesn't do parties. He barely talks to anyone." Mara's hands curled into fists. "I think something bad happened. I think he found something he wasn't supposed to." Elena frowned. "Found what?" Mara shook her head. "I don't know. But the night before he disappeared, he told me he found something strange near the hospital. Something underground. The hospital grounds were dangerous. Kids occasionally snuck in on dares. But an underground find? That was new." Elena crossed her arms. "Why come to me?" "Because Sheriff Brigg hates you. Everyone knows that. And that means he won't warn you off." Mara's gaze sharpened. "People in this town are scared of him. But you're not." That wasn't entirely true. Elena was tired of Brigg, but she wasn't scared. Not anymore. And, Mara added softly, You're the only one who's ever helped someone here without asking for anything. Elena sighed and rubbed her temples. She should say no. She was done with missing persons. Done with investigations. But something in Mara's voice dug under her skin. All right, she said. I'll look into it. Mara's relief was immediate and overwhelming. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Elena grabbed her coat. Let's start at the beginning. Where was Jonah last seen? The hospital, Mara whispered. Follow me. The morning came reluctantly to Harrow Creek. Elena hadn't slept. She spent the hours before dawn reading the torn page from Jonah's notebook. The symbols still didn't make sense. At 6 a.m., she stepped outside into the cold air. Her boots sank into wet mud as she made her way to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Malcolm Brigg was already outside, leaning against his truck with a cigarette dangling from his lips. He was a thick man, wide in the shoulders, with a face like carved stone. He watched her approach. Elena, he drawled. Heard you were crawling around the old hospital last night. Looking to get yourself killed. Elena ignored the jab. A kid's missing. Jonah Hale. Briggs snorted. He's a runaway. We get those. She pulled a blue scrap of fabric from her pocket and tossed it at him. Found this snag near the service entrance. Looks torn. Looks fresh. And I found his backpack inside. Briggs flicked his cigarette into a puddle. So he dropped his bag. Not a crime. It was hidden under rubble. Someone tried to cover it. Briggs' eyes narrowed. You think I don't know how kids behave around that place? There were footprints, she pressed, and strange markings. Briggs pushed off the truck and stepped toward her. Too close. Let me make something crystal clear, Ward. Stay out of this. I'm handling it. You're not handling anything. You haven't even filed a report. Because he isn't missing, Briggs snapped. He's hiding. Elena held his stare. His sister doesn't think so. She came to me. Briggs barked a laugh. His sister? Jonah Hale doesn't have a sister. Elena froze. What? Briggs smirked. The Hales moved here from Portland. Mother died years ago. Father's a drunk. No daughter. No sister. His smile vanished. Whoever you're talking to isn't family. A cold sensation slid down Elena's spine. Now, unless you're looking to get arrested for interfering, Briggs continued, why don't you go home and mind your own damn business? You never arrested me, Elena said tightly. You just like threatening it. Briggs opened the station door and paused. Ward, don't dig in places that ought to stay buried. He slammed the door in her face. Elena walked away with an uneasy feeling. The same feeling she used to get at homicide scenes. Something was already rotting under the surface. She crossed to the diner next door. The lights were off, but Mrs. Calloway was inside. Elena knocked on the fog glass. Mrs. Calloway opened the door a crack. Morning, Elena. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I'm asking around about Jonah Hale. At the mention of his name, Mrs. Calloway's expression shuddered. She busied herself wiping the counter. Poor boy. Shame what happened. What had happened? Nothing we need to talk about. Sheriff said it's under control. Elena leaned on the counter. Mrs. Calloway, I know how this town works. People here don't stay silent unless they're scared. The old woman's jaw twitched. Let go, Elena. Please. Is someone threatening you? Yes. A voice said from behind her. Elena turned. Caleb Finch, the town mechanic, stood in the doorway with a wrench in his hand. He looked pale. Elena, he said, voice low, you need to be careful. People who start asking questions about the hospital don't last long around here. What does the hospital have to do with Jonah? Caleb swallowed hard. Everything. He stepped close and whispered, they watch us. They always have. Sheriff Briggs is part of it. Everyone knows that, but nobody says a word because nobody wants to disappear like the others. Elena's pulse quickened. What others? Caleb's lips trembled. We don't speak their names. Elena, Mrs. Calloway said, voice trembling. Please leave before someone sees you. Elena nodded slowly and pushed through the doors. Something was very wrong in Harrow Creek, and Jonah hadn't simply gone missing. Someone had made sure he wouldn't be found. Elena returned to her cabin. Mara waited inside, pacing. What did you find out? Mara asked the second Elena walked in. You lied to me, Elena said flatly. Jonah doesn't have a sister. Mara went still, her face drained of color. I can explain. You'd better. Start talking. Mara closed her eyes. When she opened them again, fear and desperation fought in her expression. My name is Amara, and I'm not related to Jonah, but I swear to you, I'm the only one trying to save him. Elena crossed her arms. You start telling the truth, or I walk away. Mara took a deep breath. Okay, but if I tell you everything, you won't believe me. Try me. The hospital was never shut down completely. They closed the main wings, yes. But the underground levels, the experimental wards, they kept operating in secret. Elena stared at her. That hospital shut down in 1987. That's what the town was told, Mara said. But Jonah found proof. And now he's missing. Silence thickened between them. Then Mara stepped closer. They took him, Elena. Whoever runs those tunnels, they took him. Elena's skin prickled, because part of her believed it. The road to the hospital felt different in daylight. Less haunted, but no less wrong. Fog clung to the broken fence posts. Elena stepped out her truck, boots crunching on wet gravel. Mara followed, glancing over her shoulder. Why are we back here? Mara whispered. We already know Jonah was here. We know he arrived, but we don't know why he came back, or what he uncovered. Elena walked toward the main courtyard. Harrow Creek Asylum had been abandoned for decades, yet the air still hummed with its past. Electroshock rooms, isolation cells, rumors of unethical experiments. The front entrance loomed overhead like a mouth. Mara clutched her jacket. Elena, I know you don't trust me. You shouldn't. I've lied. I had to. But everything I told you about the underground levels is real. We'll see, Elena said quietly. She pushed open the heavy metal doors. Hinges screamed, echoing down the vast, empty hall. Dust motes swirled in thin shafts of gray light. The lobby stank of mold and old chemicals. Mara stayed close. Jonah said he found something in the West Wing, a room that wasn't supposed to exist. Elena swept her flashlight across peeling paint. Show me. Mara led her down a corridor, half collapsed for neglect. Their footsteps echoed, too loud in the quiet. Halfway down the hallway, Elena noticed something strange. Footprints. Fresh ones. Small enough to be Jonah's. She crouched and brushed her fingers across the mud. These weren't here last night. Someone else has been inside since the storm. Mara paled. Ooh, good question. They followed the prints toward a rusted metal door marked West Treatment Wing. Elena pushed it open. Inside, the air felt colder. Graffiti coated the walls. Crew drawings. Names carved with pocket knives. Symbols Elena didn't recognize. Mara swallowed. Jonah said this area was always locked. Even when thrill seekers used the hospital, this wing stayed barricaded. Elena shone her light upward. A metal bar lay on the floor beside the door. Recently removed. Someone had broken in. They moved deeper. The hallway split into multiple rooms. Storage closets. Crumbling patient rooms. Labs destroyed by time. Old hospital beds lay rusted in corners. In the fourth room, a small therapy space with shattered mirrors, Elena noticed something. A trail of mud that led to one wall. Just stopped. She pressed her palm against the wall. Cold. Too cold. Mara, help me move this debris. Together they shoved aside an old filing cabinet. revealing a thin vertical crack in the plaster. Almost invisible, Elena angled her flashlight. Behind the crack was darkness. A gap, a hidden doorway. She slid her fingers along the edge until she found a recess. She pulled. The wall shifted with a groaning scrape, rotating inward. A secret door, Mara whispered. Jonah was right. Behind the door was a narrow stairwell leading down. No graffiti, no dust, no cobwebs. Someone had used this recently. Stay behind me, Elena said. They descended. With every step, the air grew colder and the smell changed. Sharply sterile, metallic, the scent of a room that had been cleaned, not left to rot. At the bottom, they reached a landing with a heavy reinforced door. Elena's flashlight skimmed across a faded sign. Sublevel A, restricted access. Mara's breath caught. This is it. This is what Jonah found. Elena turned the knob. Unlocked. The door creaked open, revealing a long hallway with flickering lights. Dim, but unmistakably electric. Someone had power down here. Recent power. Elena stiffened. This place shouldn't have electricity. No, Mara whispered. It shouldn't. They crept forward. Doors lined both sides. Most were closed, but the third on the right was partially open. Elena nudged it and stepped inside. What she saw made her pulse spike. A metal chair bolted to the floor. Restraints dangling from the armrests. A tray table with surgical instruments. Clean. Organized. A drain in the center of the floor. Marks on the wall where someone had struggled. Mara covered her mouth. Oh my God. Elena approached the table. Scalpel blades. Syringes. A clipboard with notes. One page caught her eye. Mara staggered back. J.H. Jonah Hale. Elena's breath stopped. Someone had taken him here. Recently. This wasn't some old artifact. This was a functioning, hidden facility. We need to go. Now. She turned toward the door and froze. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Slow. Deliberate. Not one set. Two. Mara grabbed Elena's arm in panic. They're coming. Elena drove away from the hospital, gripping the wheel tightly. Mara sat rigid beside her, pale and silent. The image of the underground room hung over them like a shadow. The men downstairs had been armed, organized, comfortable. That meant this wasn't just a secret room. It was an operation. Active, controlled, hidden, and Sheriff Brigg was tied to it. When they reached Elena's cabin, Mara found her voice. What do we do now? Elena parked. We don't go back to town. Not yet. Why not? Because Brigg's already looking for us. A car engine approached in the distance. Slow. Deliberate. Both women froze. Inside. Now. They rushed into the cabin. Elena pulled Mara toward the back room. Then she stepped to the window. A police cruiser rolled into view. Sheriff Briggs. He pulled up directly in front, killed the engine, and climbed out. Elena opened the door before he could knock. Briggs smiled. Morning, Ward. She didn't return it. I wasn't expecting company. Figured I'd pay you a friendly visit. Heard you were poking around the hospital again. You've been hearing a lot. Small town. People talk. And people are scared, she replied. Scared of you, specifically. Briggs' eyes hardened. People in Harrow Creek know how to mind their business. Something you might try. Elena leaned against the doorframe. Cut the crap, Brigg. Why are you here? Briggs stepped closer. I'm here because you're putting your nose where it doesn't belong, and you're dragging a stranger into it. Her pulse tightened. He knew about Mara. Funny. I didn't tell you I spoke to her. You didn't need to. Town small. She folded her arms. Let me guess. You're here to tell me Jonah's just another runaway. I'm here to warn you. Back off before you cause trouble you can't fix. Or what? Briggs' face darkened. You think I don't know why you crawled into Harrow Creek? Running from your mess. Thinking nobody would notice. He stepped closer. You shot a kid, Ward. Elena's jaw clenched. It was justified. He tilted his head. Public didn't think so. Briggs smiled again. This town took you in, gave you space. You could have lived out your quiet little exile. And now you're about to piss off the wrong people. He turned to leave. Elena followed him. You know what frightens me, Sheriff? She called. Briggs paused. That you knew there were working rooms under the hospital. Rooms with restraints. Clean ones. Recently used. Briggs stiffened. Just barely. But enough for Elena to see it. He turned back. Be careful, Ward. Curiosity killed a lot of folks in this town. He climbed into the cruiser and drove off. Elena watched him disappear. Mara stepped out from the bedroom. He knows. Yes. And that was a warning. The forest swallowed the road. Dense pines pressed in from both sides, blocking out daylight. The further they drove, the more the world behind them felt distant. Mara gripped the handle. How far is his cabin? Another few miles. Doc Wesson doesn't like visitors. That's comforting. He was the lead physician in the asylum before it closed. If anyone knows what those rooms were for, it's him. And if he's part of it, then we'll know soon enough. The trees thinned to reveal a narrow dirt road. Elena turned. The road twisted until the cabin came into view. A sagging structure with boarded windows, a collapsed porch, and smoke curling from a rusted stovepipe. Someone was home. Elena parked and stepped out. A low voice called from the porch shadow. That's close enough. Elena froze. A silhouette emerged. A gaunt figure with wiry gray hair, holding a shotgun. Doc Wesson. He looked older than any photos. His skin hung loose over his bones, but his eyes were sharp. I'm not here to cause trouble, Elena said, raising her hands. Everyone who comes here says that, right before they start asking about the asylum. Elena didn't deny it. We found a room, beneath the hospital, a clean one, recently used. Wesson's jaw tightened. There were restraints, a clipboard, and someone tried to stop us from leaving. Mara stepped closer. A boy is missing. Jonah Hale. Wesson blinked. The name meant something. Elena pressed forward. You worked in that place for 20 years. You know what we saw. For a long moment, Wesson didn't move. Then he lowered the shotgun. Slowly, reluctantly. Get inside. Before someone sees your truck. Wesson shut the door and locked it with 3 bolts. Mara's voice trembled. Why so many locks? Wesson didn't answer. He hobbled to the table and sank into a chair. Elena took in the room. Stacks of old files. Yellowing papers. Medical binders piled against every wall. Glass jars filled with preserved samples lined the shelves. The place reeked of formalin and fear. How long have those rooms been in use? Elena asked. Wesson didn't look up. I told him not to reopen it. Told him. He met her gaze. The committee. The ones who funded the asylum after it closed. Elena felt ice slide down her spine. The asylum was shut down. The state sealed it. Officially. But unofficially, Harrow Creek had investors. Private ones. People with interests. Mara sat slowly. Interests in what? Wesson let out a broken laugh. Human behavior. Pain response. Fear thresholds. The kinds of things no moral institution would approve. Elena leaned forward. You're telling me the asylum never actually shut down. It changed its purpose. And when the state stopped watching, the committee took control. Where does the sheriff fit? Briggs is their security dog. Keeps people quiet. Gets rid of trouble. Mara shuddered. Jonah. Was he taken there? Wesson rubbed his eyes. Kids from unstable homes. Runaways. Drifters. People no one would miss. They were always targets. Elena felt a chill. What did they say? That children were the most valuable subjects. Mara covered her mouth. A floorboard creaked. Wesson's head snapped toward the window. Did you come alone? Yes, Elena said. Think carefully. We weren't followed. Wesson stood abruptly. No, you were. He rushed to the back door and threw open a hatch. Tracks in the brush. 2 sets. Recent. Mara's voice cracked. Ooh, a thud hit the front porch. Elena moved to the wall beside the door. Wesson whispered, They found you. The window beside Mara shattered. Someone reached through. Black gloves. A mask. A stun baton. Mara screamed. Elena fired. The man dropped, but footsteps thundered across the roof. Another figure slammed against the back door. Wesson loaded his shotgun. They're not here to scare you. The front door buckled under a kick. They're here to take you. The front door shook violently. Dust rattled loose from the ceiling beams. Mara covered her ears as Elena guided her behind the overturned table. Doc Wesson crouched behind a post, shotgun trembling in his hands. Another crash. The door frame splintered. We won't hold them long, Wesson hissed. There'll be at least 3. At least, Elena agreed. A muted radio crackled outside. Front entry in 10. The window behind them shattered. A second intruder climbed through, dressed head to toe in black, face obscured by a respirator mask. Elena fired twice. 1 bullet grazed his shoulder. The man ducked behind Wesson's medical shelf, knocking glass jars to the floor. They burst, spilling preserved specimens across the wood. The smell made Mara gag. The intruder lunged. Elena kicked a broken shelf toward him. Wesson fired. The shotgun blast lit the room with a harsh flash. The man hit the ground, writhing. Before Elena could secure him, the front door gave way entirely. 2 more masked men stormed inside. Down! Elena shouted, dragging Mara behind the stone fireplace as gunfire erupted. Not lethal rounds, but stunned pulses. Bright, cracking like lightning. Blue arcs snapped through the room, scorching the walls. Wesson fired again and missed. A stun bolt hit him square in the chest. He convulsed violently and collapsed. Doc, Mara cried. Elena held her back. Stay down. The attackers spread out, one circling the kitchen, the other advancing toward the fireplace. They weren't rushing. They were confident, professional. One spoke into his mic, secondary target down. Acquiring primary. Elena clenched her jaw. Primary target. That meant Mara. She moved fast, popped out from behind the fireplace, fired 3 quick shots, ducked back. 1 bullet hit a man's thigh, dropping him. Mara crawled toward Wesson. Get up, get up. Mara, stay low, Elena ordered. But she saw something. Wesson's hand was reaching from the floor toward the base of the wall, toward a knot in the wood paneling. A hidden release. Elena grabbed Mara and yanked her back. Move! She slammed her palm against the knot. A section of the floor behind the fireplace groaned, then slid open, revealing a narrow chute descending into darkness. A tunnel, Elena breathed. Mara stared down. Where does it go? Somewhere safer than here. Hopefully. The remaining attacker charged, stun baton crackling. Elena shot him in the shoulder, buying seconds. Mara, go. Mara scrambled into the chute. Elena grabbed Wesson by the collar, dragging his semi-conscious body to the opening. A stun blast tore through the air and hit the fireplace, spraying sparks. Wesson groaned as Elena shoved him into the tunnel. I told you they'd come. Save your strength. Another masked man stepped through the doorway. Bigger, more heavily armored, armed with a containment rifle. He raised it. Target located. Elena dove into the chute and pulled the hatch shut as a stun grenade clattered onto the cabin floor. She and Mara fell into darkness. A half-second later, boom. A wave of blue-white electricity blasted overhead. The shock wave rattled the tunnel walls. Mara screamed as they slid downward, scraping against old metal until they hit the bottom hard. Wesson collapsed beside them, unconscious but breathing. Above them, muffled voices shouted. Then, we go after them. Elena's blood turned cold. The tunnel wasn't safe. They were coming. The darkness pressed in. Elena's ears still rang, but she forced herself to breathe, to focus. Mara sat beside her, trembling. Wesson lay sprawled, twitching from the shock. Far above, boots hammered the cabin floor. Metal scraped. Someone tried to pry the hatch open. Mara whispered, "They're coming down here, aren't they?" "Yes, but we've got a head start." "How much?" Elena listened. Thud. The hatch locked back into place. Someone was shouting orders. "Not enough. We move. Now." She lifted her phone's faint light. The tunnel stretched forward. Narrow. Rusted. Old but functional. Pipes ran along the left wall, sweating moisture. Mara's breathing grew shallow. "This place feels wrong. It is wrong. But it's also our only way out." She pressed 2 fingers to Wesson's neck. Weak pulse. Barely conscious. "Can he walk?" Mara whispered. "No." "Help me lift him." Together, they dragged Wesson to his feet. His head lolled forward, but his legs moved enough to shuffle deeper into the passage. The air grew colder. The tunnel sloped downwards. Mara's voice shook. "Elena, where does this lead?" Wesson answered, voice thin. "To the old wing." Mara jumped. "He's awake." Elena steadied him. "The old wing of what dock?" "The asylum. Before they buried it." Elena stiffened. "They buried it." "Yes. It's still there. Beneath the hospital. Locked away. But not dead." Mara swallowed hard. "And Jonah was taken there?" Wesson didn't reply. His eyes rolled back as he slumped again. They moved faster. Behind them, the sound reached them faintly. A distant metallic clang. Mara froze. What was that? The hatch. They got open. A flashlight beam flickered far behind them. Just a pinprick, but unmistakable. "They're coming," Mara whispered. Elena tightened her grip on Wesson. "Run." They half-dragged, half-carried Wesson deeper as the tunnel widened. Elena's phone light revealed carvings on the wall. Symbols. Dates. Tally marks etched into the rusted pipes. Mara pointed, horrified. "Those are fresh." The tunnel leveled out before opening into a cavern-like chamber. Old support beams. Rotting wooden frames. Rusted stretchers abandoned along the walls. Mara gagged. "What is this?" "Overflow ward," Wesson muttered. When they ran out of room upstairs. "Elena," Mara whispered, "I don't want to be here." "I know." A sudden clatter rang from the tunnel behind them. Flashlights. Multiple. Growing brighter. Mara panicked. "They're close." "Move." They squeezed through an opening just as a stun burst lit up the chamber behind them. "Elena, they saw us," Mara cried. "I know. Keep going." The passage twisted sharply and opened into a corridor lined with sealed rooms. Thick doors with viewing slots bolted shut. Medical charts hung crookedly on metal hooks. Mara clutched Elena's arm. "This is a prison." "No," Elena said quietly. "It was a testing ward." "Testing for what?" Wesson's voice scraped the air. "Behavioral responses. Induced fear. Controlled variables." Mara blinked. "What does that even mean?" "They experimented on patients. Illegally." A sudden rattling erupted from one of the sealed doors. Mara jumped back. What was that? The rattling grew louder. Something slammed against the metal. Then again. Harder. "Move," Elena said. "Don't look in the windows." Because something was in there. Something alive. Ahead, Elena saw a security grate blocking the passage. Thick bars. Heavy lock. Behind them, footsteps grew louder. Mara's voice cracked. "We're trapped." "No." She knelt and reached beneath the grate housing. "Wesson, where's the latch?" He didn't answer. "Doc, stay with us. Where's the release?" He blinked blearily and lifted a trembling hand toward a rusted pipe along the wall. There, but it requires two. Elena grabbed the pipe and twisted. It groaned, resisting rust. Mara grabbed it with her, adding her weight. It shifted until a loud metallic clank echoed. The grate jolted upward half a foot. That's enough. Go. Elena pushed Mara through the gap, then pulled Wesson beneath it. She slid on her last just as the grate slammed back down. The pursuers reached the grate seconds later. One shouted, "They're in the lower ward. Move around and cut them off." Elena felt ice crawl up her spine. There were other entrances, other ways in. The tunnel ahead was no longer a refuge. It was a maze, and they were already inside. The air changed as soon as they passed under the grate. Colder, stiller, older. The faint hum of the pipes faded into dead silence. Elena steadied Mara while supporting Wesson. His breathing was thin and ragged. "Doc," Elena said softly, "you need to stay awake." But Wesson only stared down the corridor with a haunted look. This wing should never have been opened again. Mara shivered. What happened here? Wesson swallowed hard. Things no doctor should ever agree to. Things no patient should survive. Elena guided them deeper as the corridor widened. The walls were lined with old medical equipment. Restraint wheels, rusted four-poles, metal cabinets whose doors had fallen away. Jars filled with cloudy liquid sat on dusty shelves. Mara's voice trembled. "I don't want to know what's in those." "You don't," Wesson said flatly. The passage opened into a long room with a low ceiling. Glass windows lined one wall. Observation panels looking into chamber-like cells. Most of the glass was cracked or dark with age. Elena felt her pulse spike. "Keep your eyes forward. Don't look inside." Mara tried not to, until a faint tapping came from one of the windows. A slow, deliberate tap. 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 She froze. "Elena, I hear it." The tapping turned into scraping. Long dragging. Metallic. Something moved behind the fog glass. Mara pressed against Elena, shaking. "There's someone in there." "No, there shouldn't be." Wesson's voice was barely audible. Some of the subjects were kept in stasis. Cryonics. The committee believed they could be reawakened. Mara stared at him in horror. Reawakened? They froze human beings. They froze whatever they created. The scraping behind the glass grew louder, more frantic. Elena moved faster. "We're not staying here." At the far end of the hall stood a reinforced metal door with a faded symbol painted across it. A red triangle enclosing an eye. Mara whispered. That symbol was on the clipboard in the underground room. Elena nodded grimly. Then we're close to the answers. A keypad panel beside the door blinked faintly. Still active. Still powered. Wesson lifted a shaking finger toward it. "I know the code." He began pressing keys slowly. Beep, 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 beep. A red light flashed. Access denied. Mara's eyes widened. "Doc." Again he tried. Beep, 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 beep. Access denied. "Elena," Mara whispered, voice cracking. They changed it. Footsteps echoed behind them. Multiple sets. Getting closer. Elena spun around. Flashlights were cutting through the darkness at the far end of the hall. "They found another entrance," she said. "We're boxed in." Mara's breath shook. "We're trapped." Wesson's eyes fluttered. "No, not trapped. There's another way." He reached for a rusted utility hatch near the floor. So small Elena hadn't noticed it. Half buried under debris. Wesson kicked it weakly. The metal echoed hollowly. A service crawl space. It connects to the main power hub. From there, to the lower administration wing. "Elena, hurry!" Mara cried, as the lights behind them grew brighter. Together they pulled the hatch open with a screech of tearing metal. A blast of cold air rushed out. The space beyond was pitch black, narrow, and reeking of dust and rust. Mara swallowed. We'll fit, barely, but we don't have a choice. Wesson collapsed beside the opening. Elena knelt quickly and lifted him. Doc, you have to help us. Can you move at all? He coughed blood but nodded faintly. I can. Elena pushed him into the crawl space first, then guided Mara in. She turned back for one last look. The masked pursuers had reached the far end. One of them raised his containment rifle. Elena! Mara screamed from inside the tunnel. Elena dove into the shaft just as a stun burst detonated behind her, lighting the corridor in a blinding flash and sending glass shards exploding off the observation windows. The hatch slammed shut from the shockwave. Darkness swallowed them. The only sound was their breathing and the faint rumble of machinery deeper underground. Mara's voice was tiny, shaking. Where are we going? Elena crawled forward, guiding them with her phone light. The metal creaked under their movements. To the place where this all began. A low hum vibrated through the crawlspace walls. Steady. Unnatural. Wesson whispered. The main chamber. The committee's core project. It's still running. Mara turned her head slightly. What project? Wesson hesitated. Then he whispered words that chilled Elena to the bone. The Harrow Creek Behavioral Continuity Experiment. Mara frowned. What does that even mean? Wesson exhaled shakily. It means Jonah wasn't the only one they took. Silence. Then Elena asked the question forming in her mind. Doc, what does Mara have to do with this? Wesson didn't answer. He didn't have to, because the crawlspace lights flickered, then illuminated a set of words painted across the metal ahead of them in dried, flaking red. Mara stared, breath frozen in her throat. Elena, her voice broke. That's my name. Elena pulled her close. Mara, we'll figure this out. But Mara was shaking violently now. Why am I on that wall? For a long moment, no one breathed. Mara stared at her own name, painted across the metal. Flaking red, long-dried, unmistakable. Her voice cracked. Elena, what does that mean? Elena placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Someone put this here years ago, before you ever came to Harrow Creek. But how? Mara's voice rose, brittle. How can my name be down here? I've never been here. I've never even been near this place before. Wesson shifted, groaning. Half conscious. Mara, he whispered. You don't remember. Mara froze. Remember what? Wesson coughed. The committee. They began trials on children. Group of first. But Group B was different. They were outsiders. Brought in from other towns. Mara shook her head violently. No. He's confused. He has to be. Elena looked between them. Doc, focus. Are you saying Mara was one of the subjects? Wesson opened his eyes. Barely slits. Taken. Returned. Released. To observe long-term effects. Mara's mouth fell open. I would remember something like that. I would remember. Elena's voice was calm, but her pulse thundered. Doc, how old were the subjects? 5 to 7. Mara slammed her hand against the wall. I would remember, she repeated, but panic was taking over. Rapid breaths. Trembling limbs. Elena pulled her into a tight hold. Mara, listen to me. Trauma at that age can erase memory. It's how the brain protects itself. But why would I be on a wall down here? Mara whispered. Why would it say return to facility? Weston's head dropped forward. Elena, get her out. Before Phase 2 begins. Phase 2, Elena repeated. Doc, you need to tell me what that means. But Weston went limp again. Mara wiped tears from her cheeks with shaking fingers. Elena, what if he's right? What if something happened to me, and I don't remember? Elena steadied her. Then we find the truth before they do. Behind them, something echoed in the crawl space. Not voices. Not footsteps. Something worse. A mechanical whirring. Slow at first, then rising in pitch. Mara's voice trembled. "What is that?" Elena crawled forward, dragging Wesson with her. "The facility is waking up." The crawl space widened enough for them to crouch instead of crawl. A faint bluish glow pulsed ahead. Mara hesitated. "Elena, maybe we should turn back." "We can't. They're behind us." As if answering her, a distant metallic clang echoed from the direction they'd come. The pursuers were entering the crawl space. Mara's panic spiked. They found it. "Move." They followed the faint blue light until the metal shaft opened into a small maintenance platform overlooking an enormous underground chamber. Mara's breath caught. Elena froze. Even Wesson seemed to jolt awake long enough to whisper, "God help us." Below them stretched a massive circular room of steel and concrete. Catwalks spiraled down the walls like a giant web. Bright floodlights flickered as they slowly powered up. In the center stood a towering, cylindrical machine. Sealed, humming, covered in frost. Mara whispered, "What is that?" Wesson answered, voice weak but terrified. "The stasis core." Elena narrowed her eyes. "For freeze preserving the subjects." "No." Wesson exhaled shakily. "For monitoring their neural patterns." "For reactivation." Mara stumbled back. "Reactivation? They froze people, children, and now they want to wake them up." "Not people," Wesson whispered. "Not anymore." The cylinder powered up fully, emitting a deep, throbbing hum. Mara grabbed Elena's arm. "We can't be here. Elena, we have to leave, we have to." Elena pulled her close. "Listen to me. If you were part of this, if they experimented on you, they might have plans for you now." "Plans?" Mara's voice cracked. "I don't want to be part of anything." "They do," Wesson said. "Subject Group B was special." Mara stared at the glowing machine, her eyes filling with tears. "Why me? Why would they take me?" Elena's voice softened. "We'll find out. We're going to stop them. All of it." A sound rose beneath them. Metal against metal. Footsteps on a catwalk. The pursuers had reached the chamber. Elena swallowed. "We need to get down there. Quietly. Before they cut off the exits." Mara felt her knees weaken. Down there. With that thing. "With answers," Elena said. Wesson finally forced out a weak whisper. "You're running out of time. Phase 2 begins when the system detects the presence of a return subject." Mara froze. For a few seconds, Mara couldn't move. The alarm screamed overhead. Red lights spun across the chamber like a pulsing heartbeat. The central stasis core vibrated as machinery deep inside it roared to life. Subject B, active. Initiating Phase 2 protocols. The mechanical voice boomed through speakers hidden in the walls. Elena yanked Mara by the wrist. "Move." They scrambled down a narrow maintenance ladder, bolted to the wall. Wesson clung to Elena's shoulder with one shaking hand, his legs barely holding him up. Mara's voice was barely a whisper. "It knows me. The machine. It knows me. We'll deal with that later," Elena said, voice strained. "Right now we stay alive." As they reached the first catwalk ring, a thunderous hiss echoed across the chamber. Vents opened along the walls, releasing bursts of freezing vapor that rolled across the metal. Mara shivered violently. "Is that gas?" "No," Elena said. "It's coolant. They're waking the subjects." Wesson coughed. "We need to reach the control deck." Below them, lights flickered in pattern. Circles of harsh white light illuminated sealed pods lining the walls. There had to be at least 50, maybe more. Each pod had a number burned onto the metal. Mara stopped breathing when she saw it. Elena cursed under her breath. "They didn't just have your name on the crawlspace wall. You had a pod. You were really here." Mara pressed her back against the rail, shaking so hard she could hardly speak. "No, no, no, no." This is wrong. I don't remember any of this. Why don't I remember? Because you weren't supposed to, Wesson whispered. The intercom crackled. A synthesized voice echoed down the chamber, initiating behavioral re-engagement. Mara's blood turned to ice. Behavioral what? Don't listen, Elena said. It's automated. It doesn't control anything anymore. Wesson shook his head weakly. That's not true. The voice continued. Please proceed to the central core for recalibration. The stasis chamber lights shifted, forming a glowing path toward the base of the giant machine. Elena grabbed Mara's face in both hands. Listen to me. You do not go near that thing. Understand? Mara nodded, though she wasn't sure her legs would obey her if the voice spoke again. Metal clattered above them. Elena spun around. They're here. Two shadowed figures descended the maintenance ladder they just climbed down. The sound of firearms being drawn echoed through the chamber. Go! Elena shoved Wesson toward a lower ramp. Down the next level. Shots rang out. Screaming metal. Sparks flew. Mara ducked instinctively as bullets ricocheted off the railing beside her. Elena returned fire, taking cover behind a support beam. Move, Mara, Elena called. Mara forced her legs to run. Wesson stumbled, but kept moving, clutching the railing. Elena covered their retreat with precise, controlled bursts. They reached the lower level, just as a loud metallic clang shook the catwalk. One of the pods, B3, had unlocked. Mara froze. Elena. I see it. Elena muttered. Damn it. Phase 2 is opening the pods. With a screech of rusted metal, the pod door burst open. A fog of freezing vapor spilled out. A figure stepped into the light, barefoot, shivering violently, skin pale and blotched with frost. It was a woman, maybe 40. Her eyes were unfocused, cloudy with disuse. She took a staggering step forward. Wesson choked. That's subject B3. She was one of the early ones. The woman turned toward them. Her movements were jerky and unnatural, like her muscles didn't remember how to work. Her head twitched. Her eyes locked onto Mara. Then she whispered, voice cracked and broken. Mara. Mara stumbled back. No, I don't know you. I don't. The woman lurched forward, reaching out, before collapsing hard against the metal floor. Elena moved cautiously toward the fallen subject. She's alive, just weak. Wesson shook his head. The waking process. It's too fast. Their bodies weren't meant. Before he could finish, alarms blared again. A mechanical voice thundered from above. Subject B cluster compromised. Full activation required. Mara grabbed Elena's arm. We have to go. Now. Elena nodded. Control deck. It's up ahead. She pointed to a walkway leading to a small, glass wall control room half a level down. They sprinted. The door screeched open after Elena smashed the panel. Inside, monitors flickered, some shattered from years of neglect. Others displayed lines of code and biometric data surging rapidly. Mara stared at the central screen. Elena, Mara whispered. It's trying to connect to me. Elena pulled wires from the console, ripping circuits out. Not if I shut it down. Wesson sank into a chair, coughing blood. Elena, you can't just destroy it. You have to override it. Ow. Manual bypass. Lower levels. The intercom crackled softly. A different voice, calmer, colder, filled the room. Mara, please do not resist. Mara's knees buckled. Elena, that's not automated. That's someone real. Elena placed herself between Mara and the speakers. Who are you? Identify yourself. The voice ignored her. Mara, you were always meant to return. Phase 2 is for you. Mara screamed at the speaker. Stop calling my name. Elena grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. You're not theirs. You hear me? Not then, not now. Mara's breath came in ragged bursts. I just want to know what they did to me. And you will, Elena said. But first we survive the next 10 minutes. Behind them, the stasis core roared, so loud the glass in the control room vibrated. A mechanical hiss filled the air. More pods unlocking. Dozens of them. Elena chambered a round in her pistol, eyes hard. We're out of time. She turned to Mara. You ready? Mara swallowed her terror. Yes. The metal walkway shuddered under their feet. Alarms pulsed like a heartbeat across the chamber. Red lights cut through the fog of coolant drifting from dozens of awakening pods. Elena pulled Mara close as they moved. Stay behind me. Don't stop for anything. Wesson staggered along beside them, clutching his ribs. His skin was ghostly pale. Each step left a smear of blood on the railing. The door to the control deck slammed shut behind them as they fled back onto the catwalk, and the echo of the woman from Pod B3 still clung to Mara's ears. Mara. Her hand shook violently. Elena. More of them are waking. I know. They weren't supposed to. He said they weren't ready. I know. Elena's tone dropped, the fear finally bleeding through. Just keep moving. A deep metallic groan rolled through the chamber, like the entire underground complex was shifting its weight. Weston's eyes widened. It's realigning. Phase 2 reconfigures the floors. We need to. A section of the catwalk behind them snapped free, crashing into the machinery far below. Sparks and twisted steel rained down. Mara yelped. We have to get off this level. Elena pointed to a descending stairwell that spiraled into darkness. Sublevel Omega. That's where the manual override will be. Wesson shook his head. That level was sealed for a reason. We don't have a choice. Elena shot back. Another pod hissed open 3 levels up. A figure stumbled out, screaming a raw, animal sound that didn't belong in any human throat. Mara grabbed Elena's sleeve. Please go. They sprinted down the vibrating stairwell. The stairs were narrow and rusted. Every step screamed under their weight. Halfway down, Mara heard it. A dragging sound above them. Not footsteps. Not machinery. Dragging. Limping. Coming down after them. Elena, she whispered. I hear it. Elena said, drawing her pistol. Don't look back. A sudden metallic bash echoed. Something hitting the rail. Mara couldn't help it. She looked. A shape staggered down the stairs, several flights above them. Tall. Gaunt. Its limbs jerking with unnatural spasms. Frost clung to its skin like mold. Its eyes glowed faint orange in the alarm lights. A subject from Group A awake and aware. Elena, it's coming faster. Elena grabbed her hand. Run. They burst off the stairwell into a low-ceiling corridor lit by failing blue emergency lamps. Rusted pipes dripped water onto the concrete floor. Thick cables snaked along the ceiling, pulsing faintly with power. The air was colder here. Deadly cold. Weston supported himself against the wall. His breath came in short, desperate gasps. The override panel is up ahead. But, he pointed shakily. At the far end of the corridor stood a reinforced steel door labeled Omega Control. Authorized personnel only. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the corpse slumped against it. Or not a corpse. The body twitched. Mara froze. Elena. Wesson's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. That's DR. Elena blinked. The project lead? I thought he disappeared years ago. He did, Wesson whispered. They must have kept him alive for internal use. To maintain system integrity. The twitching figure looked wrong, like someone had tried to freeze him and thaw him too many times. His jaw moved without sound. His fingers scraped weakly at the floor. Mara's stomach lurched. Is he trying to say something? They moved closer. Dr. Hale's lips formed a single whispered word. Stop. Elena knelt. Stop what? His frostbitten hand rose shakily and pointed at Mara. Then his eyes rolled back, and his body went still. Mara's voice trembled. Elena, why does everyone keep pointing at me? What do they do to me? We'll find out, Elena said. But first we open this door. Elena reached for the control panel beside the steel door. Sparks hissed. It was dead. Wesson slid down the wall, clutching his chest. The backup generator failed years ago. The only way to open this door is with a manual crank inside the maintenance shaft. He pointed to a narrow grate in the floor, barely wide enough for one person. Mara's heart dropped. You mean someone has to crawl through that? Alone? Elena looked at the grate, then at Mara. I'm going. Wesson shook his head violently. No, it has to be Mara. Mara blinked. What? Why me? Wesson's voice turned desperate. Because your neural signature will bypass the locks. The system still recognizes you as Subject B. Mara stepped back, shaking her head. I don't want to be Subject B. Elena gripped her shoulders. Mara, listen to me. If you open this door, we can shut down the entire facility. We can stop phase 2. We can stop whatever they want from you. I'm scared, Mara whispered. Elena softened. I know, but you're the only one who can do this. A loud metallic crash echoed from the stairwell. The dragging sound was closer, much closer. Mara stared at the grate, then at Elena, then at the dark corridor behind them where something inhuman was approaching. Her hand shook, but she nodded. Okay, I'll do it. Elena pried open the grate. Cold air rushed up like a breath from the abyss. Mara lowered herself into the darkness. The last thing she heard before crawling in was Elena's voice. I'm right here. I won't let anything happen to you. Then the grate closed, and Mara was alone. The shaft was barely wider than Mara's shoulders. Metal scraped her elbows with every move. Her breath echoed back at her, loud and uneven, trapped with her in the darkness. The only light came from a faint blue glow ahead, flickering like a dying pulse. Elena's muffled voice filtered through the grate above. I'm right here. Keep moving forward. Talk to me if you need to. I'll be okay, Mara called back, though her voice didn't sound like hers. It sounded like a scared child's. She crawled. The air grew colder the farther she went. Frost glimmered on the steel walls, sparkling as her fingers brushed it. The machine's hum vibrated through the metal, steady, rhythmic, like a heartbeat she didn't want to recognize. She kept moving. Her breathing quickened. Every scrape of her knees echoed like footsteps. Her own footsteps. Then something else. A faint voice. High. Musical. A child's voice humming a tune. Mara's spine stiffened. Elena. I hear you. Elena called faintly. Keep going. You're doing great. No, Mara whispered. Someone else is in here. The humming continued. Fragmented. Familiar. It wasn't real, she told herself. Except she knew the melody. Knew it. Her mother used to hum it when she was small. Except her mother never hummed. Mara froze. I remember this song. Then something colder than the shaft's air slid down her back. She wasn't remembering. She was hearing it. Exactly the same tone. Exactly the same rhythm. As if from a recording. Someone had played that lullaby for her as child. Here, in this facility. Her blood turned to ice. Elena, Mara's voice cracked. I think I've been here before. I think I was really one of the kids in Group B. Elena's voice came faintly. Mara, don't think about that right now. I have to think about it. Mara snapped. They hurt children here, Elena. They took them, erased them, and now they want them back. Mara, listen to me. I want the truth. Her voice slammed through the shaft, echoing. For a moment, she heard nothing. Then the humming stopped. A click echoed in the dark ahead. Metal scraping. A small, recessed panel slid open, unprompted. Mara recoiled. Elena, something just opened. What opened? I don't know. I didn't touch anything. The panel revealed a narrow slot, glowing faintly blue. Then a soft, synthesized voice, childlike and artificial, drifted from the walls. Welcome back, Mara. Mara's heart stopped. Elena's voice came urgently from above. Mara, what did it say? It knows I'm here. The system. It recognized me. Mara, stop moving until I get my bearings. But the voice in the shaft continued, overlapping with Elena's, drowning everything else out. You never finish your assessment. Please proceed to the memory port for evaluation. Then, disturbingly, do not be afraid. Phase 2 is designed to restore what was lost. Mara's hand shook violently. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't. The slot on the wall blinked brightly. Words appeared in thin, digital lettering. No, no, no. Mara pushed herself backward frantically, scraping her elbows raw, but the shaft was too tight, and panic made her movements clumsy. Elena, she screamed. Open the grate, get me out, get me out. Mara, stop, breathe, just breathe. Tell me where you are. But Mara could barely hear her. The humming began again. Not the lullaby. A deeper hum. Something powering up behind the walls. Something meant for her. The digital text shifted. Engaging memory extraction protocol. Mara slammed her fist against the metal. No. Stop it. A blast of air shot through the shaft, freezing cold, knocking her forward. The system spoke again, calm and merciless. Please remain still. This process cannot be interrupted. No, let me go. Mara, Elena yelled. Hold on, I'm coming. Mara clawed at the walls, the metal biting into her fingers. The force of air pulled her toward the glowing panel, toward the memory port. Her vision blurred. A flicker of light. A child's scream, her own, echoing from deep inside her head. She didn't remember that scream, but her body did. Elena. She sobbed now. Don't let it take me, please. Listen to my voice. Mara. Elena shouted. I'm right here. Hold on. But the air pressure increased, dragging Mara closer. Her hand slipped. No, 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 no. Elena. Then a sound ripped through the shaft. Metal twisting. Glass shattering. A gunshot. Elena's gunshot. The suction reversed, blasting cold air outward instead of pulling inward. Mara was thrown backward, slamming into the grate at the shaft's entrance. A second later the grate tore open, and Elena reached down with both arms, screaming, I've got you. Mara grabbed her wrist, sobbing violently. Elena hauled her up and out of the shaft with brute force, just as the memory port sparked and exploded behind her. Cold air and smoke filled the corridor. Mara collapsed into Elena's arms, shaking uncontrollably. Elena held her tight, voice trembling with fury. They are never taking you again. And behind them, deep inside the shaft, the system whispered one final line. Soft, almost disappointed. Reclamation incomplete. Mara clung to Elena, her breath coming in ragged bursts. The corridor seemed to tilt around her, every flicker of the failing lights smearing into a haze. Wesson struggled to his feet, gripping the wall for balance. What happened? What did it try to do to you? Mara wiped cold sweat from her forehead. It tried to open something in my head. Her voice cracked. It wants memories I don't even have. Elena cupped Mara's face gently but firmly. Look at me. You're still here. That's all that matters. Mara nodded shakily, though her entire body trembled. Then a noise echoed from the stairwell. A deep, wet inhalation. Not quite human. Elena stiffened. It followed us. The dragging footsteps grew louder. Closer. Mara whispered, The subject from Group A. It's still coming. Wesson winced. Those subjects were conditioned to respond to neural signatures. They're drawn to emotional spikes. Fear. Memory triggers. Mara's chest tightened. You're saying it's hunting me. I'm saying it can smell you. A shape appeared at the top of the corridor, silhouetted in stuttering blue light. Its spine arched unnaturally, one arm dangling too long, fingers curled like claws. Frost clung to its skin, cracking with each jerky step. Its head twitched toward them. It sniffed the air. Mara couldn't breathe. Elena moved in front of her without hesitation, gun raised. Get behind me. Don't look at it. Don't move unless I say. The creature stepped forward. Slow, twitching, deliberate. Mara took a step back, nearly slipping on the ice forming across the floor. Elena, it's coming too fast. Elena, Wesson whispered hoarsely. You can't kill it. The neural implants will keep driving motor function, even if you take out the head. So what do you suggest? Elena hissed. Run. The creature let out a low, guttural sound, a cross between a growl and a cough, then charged. Go! Elena shouted. Mara sprinted down the corridor, half slipping on frost, lungs burning. Elena grabbed Wesson, dragging him after her. Behind them, the creature's footsteps slammed heavily against the floor. Closer, closer. Elena whipped around and fired. The shot cracked like thunder, sparks exploding as a bullet ricocheted off the metal ceiling. The creature shrieked and crashed into the wall, but it didn't slow. Mara screamed, Elena, run. Elena shoved Wesson through the doorway at the end of the corridor, labeled in faded paint. Maintenance access, sub-level Omega Core. She and Mara dove inside as the creature slammed into the frame, denting the steel. Elena pulled the lever on the inside panel. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then slam. A thick metal barrier dropped between them and the creature. It shrieked and clawed at the steel, its fingers scraping deep gouges into the door. Mara collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. It won't stop. It won't stop. Wesson coughed violently, blood on his sleeve. Group A was conditioned to attach to a target until retrieval or termination. There's no abandoning the pursuit. Elena turned sharply. Can you give me anything useful right now, Doc? Wesson swallowed. Yes, but you're not going to like it. Elena waited, jaw clenched. Wesson pointed weakly toward a dimly lit hallway ahead, its floor coated in frost. At the end of that hall is the Omega Core, the heart of this entire facility. If we reach it, we can shut down all active protocols, including the subjects. Mara steadied her breathing. Then that's where we're going. Wesson's voice dropped to a whisper. There's more. Mara tensed. What? The Omega Core contains the original files. Every subject's test record. Every memory imprint. Every event that happened in these walls. Mara felt her pulse spike. My file. He nodded painfully. Yes. Everything they did to you is down there. Mara didn't hesitate. Then we're going. Elena nodded once. Stay behind me. And if anything moves, anything at all, you tell me. They pushed deeper into the maintenance corridor, the air growing colder with each step. Metal creaked overhead. Lights flickered like dying fireflies. The hum of machinery vibrated beneath the floor like a heartbeat. They reached a fork. One path descending into darkness. One path curving toward a glowing blue chamber. Wesson pointed to the stairs downward. That leads to the core. But the side chamber. He hesitated. Mara swallowed. What's in the side chamber? Wesson's eyes lowered. Observation rooms. Observation of what? Mara whispered. Wesson stared at her with a pained look. Of you. Mara's throat tightened. Elena turned to her. We don't have to look. Yes, Mara said, voice trembling but resolute. "We do." She stepped toward the glowing chamber. Her hand shook. Her breath quivered. And when she reached the window of the observation room, she saw herself. On the other side of the glass was a tiny metal chair, straps, a child-size headset, and a grainy old monitor replaying a video on loop. A little girl sat in the chair. Dark hair, wide, terrified eyes. Mara felt her knees buckle. It was her. She was maybe 6 years old, crying, begging, strapped in place. A woman's voice in the video said, "Begin extraction sequence." Mara backed away, shaking her head violently. "No, no, please. I don't want to see this." The child on the screen screamed. A small, trembling hand reached toward the camera. "Help me." She had mouthed those words. Her small lips shaped it perfectly. Mara collapsed to the floor, sobbing into her hands. Elena rushed to her, wrapping her arms around her. "Mara, stop, stop looking." "I was here," Mara sobbed. "I was really here. They took me. They hurt me. They erased me." Elena held her tight. "You survived. That's what matters." Wesson approached slowly, guilt etched into his broken posture. "I'm sorry. So sorry. We never knew what phase 2 would bring back. But you deserve the truth." Mara wiped her eyes, trembling. "And now I need the rest." She stood, shaking, terrified, but standing. "Elena, take me to the Omega Core." Elena nodded, fire in her eyes. "We end this." They turned toward the stairs, descending into darkness. Behind them, the creature slammed against the distant metal door again. This time, the metal bent more. It was coming, and there wasn't much time left. The stairwell leading to the Omega Core descended in a tight spiral, walls shimmering with a thin layer of frost. Every step produced a brittle crunch beneath their boots, echoing sharply into the dark. Mara stayed close to Elena, one hand gripping the rail to steady herself. Her legs still trembled, not from exhaustion, but from the lingering image of the small girl strapped into a metal chair. Her own face, her own voice, crying for help no one gave. Elena watched her carefully. "You don't have to talk about it yet." "I know," Mara whispered, "but I will. I just need to reach the end of this." Wesson descended behind them, clutching his ribs. "We're close. The Omega Core is 3 levels down. The deeper we go, the more unstable the facility becomes." A deep rumble shook dust from the overhead pipes, as if to emphasize his words. Mara exhaled. "How much time do we have?" Wesson didn't answer. Elena shot him a look. "Doc." Another rumble vibrated the stairs. "Hours. Maybe less." They continued downward. With each level, the temperature dropped further. Mara's breath fogged in thick white plumes. The steel railing froze beneath her palm. As they reached the landing for level B3, a series of lights flickered on automatically. Weak, pale blue, like dying stars. The air turned heavy with a low mechanical hum. Wesson stopped, leaning against the wall. "This is it. Omega exists beneath the geothermal conduits. The experiments needed massive cooling systems to stabilize the neural." Elena held up a hand. Quiet. Footsteps. Above them. Slow. Uneven. Dragging. Mara's heart lurched. It broke through the door. Elena grabbed her weapon. "Move. Now." They hurried across the landing toward the thick door labeled Omega Access. Authorized personnel only. Wesson approached the biometric panel. "It still recognizes my clearance." Hopefully. He pressed his hand against the scanner. A soft chime echoed. "Access granted." The door slid open, cold air flooding out in a gust so powerful it nearly knocked Mara back. They stepped inside, and Mara froze. The Omega Core wasn't a room. It was an entire cylindrical chamber, descending far deeper than she could see. Catwalks spiraled downward like metal ribs, illuminated by a soft blue glow radiating from a colossal structure in the center. Pulsing. Alive. A tower of circuitry and glass. Mara whispered, "What is that?" Wesson exhaled shakily. "The memory conduit. It stores every neural imprint ever harvested, every experiment, every subject, even synthetic memory models, including yours." Elena's eyes scanned the catwalks. "And how do we shut it down?" "There's a manual override at the base of the conduit," Wesson replied. "But once we initiate shutdown, the facility's automated defenses will." A violent metallic shriek ripped through the stairwell behind them. The creature. Mara felt her throat close. "It's here." Elena grabbed her arm. "We're going down the catwalk. Keep moving and don't look back." They started the spiral descent, every metal grate trembling under their feet. The hum of the conduit intensified, vibrating through the entire structure like an enormous heartbeat. Mara stared at the glowing tower, whispers stirring at the edge of her mind. A child's voice. Her voice. "Come back. Finish what they started. You belong to us." Mara stumbled. Elena steadied her instantly. "What is it?" "The core. It's pulling at my memories. I can feel it." Wesson nodded grimly. "Because your imprint is inside. Your neural patterns were copied here when you were just a child." "Copied?" Mara's voice broke. "Does that mean there's another me?" Elena grabbed Wesson by the collar. "Document. Now is not the time to get poetic." Wesson swallowed. "Not another you, but echoes. Fragments. Stored and replayed for research." The whispers grew louder. A steady rhythm of her own childhood screams, looping faintly beneath the hum. Mara pressed her palms to her temples. "Make it stop. We just need to reach the base," Elena said. "You're stronger than whatever they left in there." Another metallic roar echoed above them. The creature reached the catwalk. Its silhouette leaned over the railing, head jerking unnaturally as it sniffed the air. Weston choked. "It's tracking Mara's imprint. The closer we get to her stored data, the stronger the link becomes." "It's not tracking," Elena growled. "It's fixated." The creature flung itself onto the catwalk, landing with a crash that rattled the entire structure. It sprinted downward, its body twitching violently with each impact. Mara's breath seized. "It's going to reach us." Elena aimed and fired. 2 shots rang out. One grazed the creature's shoulder. The other hit it square in the chest. It staggered, twitched, but did not fall. Elena cursed. "Wesson, override procedure. Now." Wesson pointed downward, voice cracking with urgency. "There's a control platform 70 meters below. If I reach it, I can initiate the purge. Then move." Elena shoved him ahead. "We'll hold it off." Mara's eyes widened. "Elena, no arguments. Stay close to me." They continued fleeing downward as the creature closed the distance, jerking, limping, accelerating with each unsteady step. Suddenly a loud crack thundered through the catwalk. A section of the metal grating beneath the creature buckled. Then snap. The entire segment collapsed. The creature fell. Its body slammed into the lower catwalk 3 levels below with a sickening crunch. Mara gasped. "Is it?" The creature twitched violently. Then, impossibly, it began to rise. Bone snapped back into place. Limbs straightened. Its head twisted around 180 degrees before rotating back with a grotesque crack. Elena whispered, "You have got to be kidding me." The creature looked up at them, and it screamed, a raw, metallic sound that vibrated the entire chamber. "It's learning our path," Wesson warned. "It'll take the shortcuts. We have minutes at best." They reached the final platform, wide, circular, facing a massive control console with glowing interfaces. Wesson sprinted to it. I can start the shutdown, but it's going to trigger a lockdown. We'll be trapped with it. Elena's jaw tightened. Do it anyway. Mara stared at the glowing tower, feeling her pulse sync with its pulse. Her memories, her life, everything taken from her was inside that towering machine. She stepped forward. Mara, Elena grabbed her wrist. What are you doing? I can stop it, Mara whispered. The core responds to neural signatures. If I connect directly, if I trigger the purge manually. Weston spun toward her. Absolutely not. Direct neural contact could overwrite your identity. It could. A deafening roar echoed from above. The creature dropped on a platform. Elena shoved Mara behind her. We're out of time. The creature lunged. Elena fired point blank. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Wesson yelled, Mara, the panel now. Mara made her choice. She sprinted toward the conduit's access point. Elena fought to hold the creature back. Wesson slammed his hand onto the override controls. Sparks erupted. The core flared with blue-white light. Mara reached the panel and placed her hands against the interface. Instantly, the world dissolved into a blinding flash of memories. Screams, white rooms, cold hands, her own voice calling out for help through the years. All of it flooding back. Too fast, too bright, too much. Elena screamed her name. Wesson shouted something lost to the roar, and the creature leapt at them as the Omega core began to collapse. Darkness swallowed Mara the instant her palms touched the interface. But it wasn't empty. It thrummed, alive, pulsing like a living organism made of electricity and echoes. Cold tendrils of data spiraled around her, brushing across her skin like static-laced whispers. She wasn't standing anymore. She wasn't anywhere. She was inside the Omega core, and it remembered her. 1,000 flickering images materialized at once, like shattered mirrors suspended in blackness. A little girl crying in a metal chair, gloved hands tightening straps, white lights forming halos over doctors' faces, a voice saying, increased neural conductivity. She's resisting again. Mara clutched her head, but the memories didn't stop. They poured in faster, harder. Her breath hitched. Stop, stop. But the core answered with her own voice, a younger, breaking voice. Please, please let me go. Mara's knees buckled. She wasn't reliving memories. She was drowning in them. Back in the real world, Elena braced herself as the creature struck her again, forcing her backward across the platform. Sparks sprayed from the railing where its claws scraped steel. Wesson, Elena shouted. How we pull her out? We can't. Wesson yelled back, frantically typing into the console. The neural link has to finish, or it'll kill her. She has to override it from inside. The creature lunged again. Elena sidestepped the swing, fired twice into its skull. Nothing. It kept coming. Damn it, Mara, hurry. Inside the core, the world split around Mara into corridors of light, each one a memory playing like a hologram. Memory 1. She is 5 years old. A woman kneels before her, smiling too gently. Mara, can you hear me? This is for the greater good. Memory 2. She is strapped down. Cold electrodes pressed to her temples. Begin sequence. Her screams echo. Memory 3. She is running down a hallway, tiny legs stumbling. Guards grab her. She fights. She begs. No one comes. Mara gasped, tears burning down her face. I don't want this. The core pulsed violently. Every memory sharpened. Every whisper grew louder, like the machine was trying to pull her back into childhood and overwrite everything she had become. A shadow formed inside the swirling lights, the outline of a little girl. Mara's breath froze. The child approached slowly, bare feet, shivering. eyes too wide, too knowing. Her own face, exactly as she saw in the observation room. Little Mara reached out a small hand. You left me. Mara's heart cracked open. No, I didn't know. I didn't remember. You forgot me. The little girl stepped closer. They made you forget. They made you leave me alone. Mara fell to her knees. I'm here now. I'm not leaving again. The child's eyes darkened. No, you're not. We need to become one again. Mara froze. That's what they wanted, the child said softly. One mind, one memory, one obedient subject. The machine pulsed with agreement. Mara backed away. No, I won't be your experiment again. The child tilted her head. You already are. She rushed forward, and the memories exploded around them. Back on the platform, the creature slammed Elena into the railing. Her ribs cracked painfully, breath knocked from her lungs. Wesson cried out, It's adapting to your movements. You have to be unpredictable. Fantastic advice. Elena coughed, dodging a swing by inches. The railing snapped. Elena nearly went over the edge, but she grabbed a cable, dangling over the massive drop. Elena! Wesson screamed. The creature reached down, clawing at her fingers. Elena gritted her teeth. I swear to God, Mara, finish whatever you're doing. Inside the core, little Mara barreled into her, sending a shock of white-hot pain through her skull. The memories around them twisted violently, warping into distorted versions of themselves. Mara shoved her younger self away. You're not me. You're a part of me they broke. Little Mara's face contorted, static crawling across her features. I'm what you were meant to be. No. Mara stood, shaking but resolute. You're what they made me. The girl screamed, a high, piercing sound that shattered memory corridors like glass. Mara staggered but forced herself forward. They stole my past, Mara whispered. But they don't get to decide my future. The child lunged again, but Mara opened her arms. Not to fight, to embrace. The child froze, confused. Mara wrapped her tightly, tears falling into the child's hair. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything you went through, for every minute you were alone. I didn't forget you. They took you from me, but I'm taking you back. The child trembled. Then, slowly, she hugged Mara back. The light around them shifted from cold blue to warm gold. The core screamed in protest. Panels flickered. Energy surged wildly. The machine didn't want this. Reintegration meant independence, autonomy, memory ownership, not obedience. Mara whispered into the girl's hair, We are not theirs. The child smiled weakly, then dissolved in a soft light, flowing back into Mara's chest. Mara gasped as warmth flooded her. Memories no longer clawed at her. They settled into place, belonging to her, finally whole. She opened her eyes inside the core. I'm done running. She reached for the control within the memory stream, the override, and slammed her hand on it. Back on the platform, every light in the chamber flared white. The creature reared back, shrieking in agony, clutching its head. Its implants burned through its skin, glowing red-hot. Wesson shielded his eyes. She triggered it. The purge is happening. Elena hauled herself onto the platform, just as the creature collapsed to its knees, howling. Elena staggered her feet. Mara. Moira. Mara's body jerked to the interface, then went still. The cores died. The lights flickered, and the entire facility let out one long, massive exhale, as if it were finally, mercifully, dying. The creature toppled onto its side, limbs twitching, then fell silent. Elena ran to Mara, grabbing her shoulders. Mara, Mara, talk to me. Mara's eyes fluttered open, and she whispered, I remember everything. For a moment, there was only silence. Not the oppressive, mechanical hum that haunted every corridor of the facility. Not the distant shrieks of subjects in the dark. Not the frantic alarms or metallic clanging. Just quiet. The Omega Core, once a living heart of cold blue light, now flickered like a dying star. Mara lay slumped against the interface, breath shallow, skin pale beneath the harsh glow. Elena knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders tightly. Mara, look at me. Mara blinked, slow, unfocused at first. Then her gaze sharpened. Elena, it's really gone. I shut it down. Wesson leaned against the console, exhausted yet awestruck. You did more than shut it down. The purge erased every active imprint, every control protocol, every subject directive. Elena's jaw tightened. Meaning, Wesson swallowed. Meaning the creatures, the experiments, the entire network, they're no longer being controlled. Elena froze. So they're free. Wesson hesitated. Yes. Elena clenched her fists. Perfect. Mara exhaled shakily, looking around the dimming chamber. The creature that had hunted them lay unnervingly still. Its twitching had stopped. Its chest no longer lifted. Dead. Finally dead. A strange mix of relief and sorrow pulled at her. They were victims too, she said softly. Elena brushed hair from Mara's face. You can mourn them after we get out of this place. A loud tremor rolled through the structure. Dust and frost rained from above. A spiraling catwalk groaned under its own weight, bolts snapping one by one. Wesson's eyes widened. That's not good. Elena shot him a glare. I figured. Wesson wiped sweat from his brow. The core was keeping the geothermal stabilizers regulated. With it down, the cooling systems will fail. Pressure will build. When the heat spikes, put it in simple terms, Elena snapped. The facility will collapse. Another violent tremor shook the chamber, metal shrieking as massive pipes buckled overhead. Mara pushed herself upright, muscles trembling. How long do we have? Wesson shook his head. Minutes. Maybe. Elena stood, pulling Mara to her feet. Then we're leaving. But the moment they turned toward the spiral catwalk, a groaning crack echoed above them. A giant metal beam snapped loose, swinging downward like a pendulum from hell. Moo! Elena yelled. She shoved Mara aside as the beam crashed onto the catwalk, smashing it clean through. The path upward was severed, nothing but twisted, smoking metal and a long drop into the abyss below. Wesson's face turned white. That was her only exit. Elena cursed under her breath. There has to be another way. A maintenance ladder. A service hatch. Something. Mara steadied herself, looking over the edge. The core's interior was built like an inverted tower. If the top was blocked, what about going down? She asked quietly. Elena turned. Down. The whole lower structure is collapsing. But if there's a geothermal access shaft, Wesson murmured, thinking quickly, eyes darting across the walls. It will be below the core. Emergency systems need it for pressure release. Elena frowned. Meaning there might be a tunnel. One that leads outside. The chamber groaned again, louder this time. A web of cracks splintered across the central tower. Elena grabbed her gun. Then we're going down. Wesson's voice trembled. It's unstable. Everything is unstable. Elena snapped. Pick your danger. They hurried to the edge of the platform, where a narrow maintenance ladder descended along the wall. Half of it was covered in frost. The other half was warped from heat. Elena tested the top rung. It wobbled but held. She nodded. I'll go first. Mara, you follow. Doc, fix your face and come next. Wesson blinked. Fix my. Now. He scrambled. Elena began climbing. Mara inhaled shakily and grabbed the ladder. Her muscles ached from the neural surge, but she forced herself down, rung by rung. Below them, the massive core flickered once, then erupted with a burst of sparks as its systems overloaded. Heat washed upward. The metal rungs burned to the touch. Mara hissed in pain. "It's heating up." Wesson called down nervously. "It's not just heating. The stabilizer shaft is venting pressure. The collapse is accelerating." Elena yelled upward. "Move, DOC." The entire chamber lurched sideways. The ladder tore partially free. Mara gasped as her foot slipped. For one horrifying moment, she dangled over the abyss. "Mara!" Elena shouted. Mara's hand burned against the metal, but she clung on. Elena reached up, grabbed Mara's wrist, and steadied her. "Don't you dare fall," Elena said, voice harsh with fear she rarely showed. "I'm not going anywhere," Mara whispered. They kept climbing. Faster. Harder. The heat thickened like a furnace. Steam vented through cracks, hissing violently. Panels burst from the walls, raining debris. Finally, Elena reached the bottom. A massive circular vent glowed with faint red emergency lights. The opening was wide enough for a person, but barely. Wesson nearly collapsed the moment he stepped off the ladder. The geothermal access shaft. "We made it." Elena helped Mara down. "Where does it go?" Wesson pointed shakily to the vent. "Outside. Through the old exhaust tunnels." A thunderous crack split the chamber. The central tower began to implode, glass and steel collapsing inward. Mara grabbed Wesson. "Go!" They dove into the vent just as the entire Omega core chamber collapsed behind them. The vent spat them out into a narrow metal shaft that groaned with every tremor from the collapsing facility above. Red emergency lights flickered along the curved walls, casting their faces in jagged shadows. Elena landed first, rolling to absorb the impact. Wesson slid out after her with a pained grunt, followed by Mara, who dropped to her knees, chest heaving. Everything smelled of rust, steam, and burning wires. "Everyone alive?" Elena asked, already pushing herself to her feet. "Barely," Wesson muttered, clutching his ribs. Mara managed a nod. "Where are we?" Wesson gestured weakly toward the slanted tunnel stretching ahead. "Exhaust tunnels." They used to cycle overheated air and steam from the core into the outside environment. Elena squinted. "Meaning?" Weston swallowed. "Meaning if the facility is collapsing, this entire shaft could implode or vent at any moment." Elena sighed sharply. Of course it could. The ground jolted beneath them as another earthquake-like tremor rippled through the tunnel. The sound of the Omega core collapsing echoed like some titanic beast dying. Mara pushed herself up, steadying on the wall. Her hands still tingled from the neural surge. Her mind still felt stretched thin, too many memories settling in place like puzzle pieces snapping violently together. "Elena, I saw everything," she whispered. "I saw what they did. I saw what I was." Elena's voice softened. "You aren't what they made you. You're what you choose to be. Now keep choosing to live." Mara breathed out slowly and nodded. Wesson pushed ahead, limping down the tunnel. "We need to reach the intersection. From there, one branch leads to an old access hatch. If we're incredibly lucky, it'll still open." Elena followed, weapon raised. Mara stayed close, her heartbeat echoing in her ears with every step. The tunnel was sweltering, heat radiating from pipes that bulged and hissed ominously. Steam vented in intermittent gusts, each one sounding like a wounded creature gasping for breath. Every few seconds the tunnel shook. Walls groaned. Screws rattled loose and pinged against the floor. Time was running out. After several minutes, They reached a fork. One tunnel sloping downward into deeper darkness, the other rising toward a faint glimmer of cold air. Weston pointed up. That way. That's our exit. Elena gave him a sharp look. What's down the other path? Weston's voice tightened. Reactor conduits. If you go down there, you reach the geothermal heart. Elena narrowed her eyes. Why does your voice sound like you don't want us near it? Weston looked away. Because that's where they kept the largest subjects. Ones they couldn't control, even with implants. Mara's blood ran cold. A deep, resonant sound, like a distant growl, rolled up from the lower tunnel. Elena raised her gun. We go up. Now. They climbed the upward tunnel as fast as their battered bodies allowed. Steam vents burst on either side, forcing them to duck and shield their faces. The temperature spiked, each step hotter than the last. Finally, they reached a circular hatch embedded in the ceiling. A metal wool lock sealed it from above. Weston tried to spin it. It didn't budge. He gritted his teeth. It's rusted. Help me. Elena grabbed the wheel. Mara helped too. Mara threw her hands onto the metal, pushing with all her strength. It didn't move. Then, a low thud echoed through the tunnel. Something large, heavy, moving below them. Elena's voice dropped. We're not alone. The thud came again, closer this time. Weston screamed. Push harder. They strained. The wheel screeched. Metal groaned. And finally, the lock jerked a full inch. A distant roar rolled through the shaft behind them. A roar unlike the smaller creature. Deeper. Furious. Awakened. Elena's entire body tensed. Something's coming up the tunnel. Mara felt ice grip her lungs. It's free now. Whatever it is. They pushed again. The wheel turned another inch. Then another. The roar echoed again. And this time, closer. Much closer. Weston's face twisted in panic. Push, push, push. The wheel slammed into its open position. Elena threw the hatch upward. Cold air rushed in like a salvation. Geo, she shouted. Weston scrambled up first, dragging himself onto the snowy ground above. Mara followed, grabbing his hand as he pulled her through. As she climbed out, she heard it, massive claws scraping metal, a guttural snarl vibrating the tunnel. She turned back into the hatch. A huge, shadowy shape surged up the darkness. Elena. Mara screamed. Elena leapt, catching the edge of the hatch as the creature slammed into the opening below her. The metal bent upward, its claws stretching through the gap. Elena kicked one hand over the edge and reached for Mara. Mara grabbed her wrist. Elena grabbed Mara's. Weston grabbed Mara's other arm. Together, they yanked Elena through the hatch just as enormous claws scraped inches from her boot. The hatch slammed shut as the creature inside roared in fury. Elena collapsed into the snow, gasping, shaking. Weston lay on his back, staring blankly at the gray, snow-choked sky. The facility below them rumbled like a dying beast. Mara stood slowly, breath trembling. They had escaped, but as the snowy wind swirled around them, Mara's eyes fixed on the forest in the distance. A figure stood there, still, silhouetted, watching, too far to identify, but close enough that Mara felt a cold spike of recognition. Elena slowly got to her feet, following Mara's gaze. Please tell me that's just a tree, Elena muttered. Mara shook her head. No, somebody's waiting for us. The figure stepped back into the fog. Gone. Elena cursed softly. Looks like we're not done yet. Mara wrapped her arms around herself, memories settling like snow across her mind. No, she whispered. We're just getting started. For a moment, there was only silence. Not the oppressive, mechanical hum. Not the distant shrieks. Not the frantic alarms. Just the wind, and the snow, and the sound of their own breathing. Elena froze, her breath a thin cloud in the icy darkness. The figure standing among the trees didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even flinch when the wind whipped powdery snow across the clearing. Mara pressed closer to Elena, shivering. "Is it one of them?" "No," Elena whispered. "They move loudly, confidently. This one is waiting." Wesson leaned his weight on a cold boulder, still pale from blood loss. The wound on his side throbbed beneath the makeshift bandage, but he kept his eyes fixed on the figure. "He's been following us since we left the facility." Mara blinked. "You saw him?" "I felt him." Wesson coughed, breath frosting the air. "Every survivor of Harrow Creek does." Elena tightened her grip on her pistol. The figure remained still, a tall silhouette wrapped in heavy winter gear, face hidden behind a matte black mask, different from the attackers before. Older, more primitive. The mask resembled a gas respirator molded from soot and bone. The figure finally moved. A single step forward. Elena raised her gun instantly. "Stop!" The echo died quickly in the trees. The figure lifted one hand, not in surrender, but slowly, deliberately, as if reenacting an old ritual. Then he touched his fingertips to the front of his mask. Mara's knees buckled. "He knows us." "Not possible," Elena muttered. "Unless—" The figure pressed a gloved finger to the air, pointing directly at Mara. Elena stepped in front of her. "You're not taking her." He tilted his head. Snowflakes drifted across his mask, clinging like dust to old stone. Then he raised both hands and pulled back the hood. It didn't help. The mask was still on, more ominous than before. A voice crackled through some kind of throat amplifier. "I warned them not to bring her back." Elena's blood froze. "Back? Back from where?" The figure ignored her question. Instead, he tapped his chest. A symbol glowed faintly, a white, angular shape resembling an eye trapped inside a hexagon. Mara inhaled sharply. "Elena, I've seen that symbol." "When?" Elena whispered. "In my dreams." Wesson swore under his breath. The figure lowered his hand, and for the first time, Elena noticed the outline of something strapped to his back. Not a rifle, but a long, sealed cylinder etched with more symbols. Old ones. One she had seen in the facility. He spoke again, voice mechanical and slow. "She is waking. You must keep her above ground. If they take her beneath again, you lose her." Elena stepped closer, heart pounding. "What's happening to her? Why are they after her?" The masked figure shook his head. "Not after her. What's inside her?" Mara grabbed Elena's coat. "Please make him stop." Elena fired a warning shot into the snow. "Enough riddles. Take off the mask." The forest went still. The figure reached up and slowly, deliberately, began to unhook the latches on either side of his mask. Metal creaked. Frost cracked. Mara held her breath. Elena steadied her aim. One latch. Two. The figure lifted the mask just enough for Elena to glimpse white scars. Too many. And eyes that did not reflect the moonlight like normal eyes. They shimmered, fractured, like mirrors broken inward. Then a sharp whistling cut through the air. Elena only had time to shove Mara aside before a projectile streaked through the clearing. The masked figure jerked violently, hit in the shoulder by a tranquilizer dart. He staggered, dropping to one knee. Mara screamed. "No!" Elena spun toward the tree line. Three silhouettes emerged. Heavy armor. Same insignia as the attackers before. One of them spoke into his radio. "Asset located. Neutralizing unauthorized contact." Elena raised her pistol. The masked figure struggled to stand, pointing weakly toward Mara. "Run." Before they. Another dart struck him in the throat. He collapsed face first into the snow, mask falling from his hand. Mara tried to run toward him, but Elena grabbed her. No, no, you can't. They'll kill him. Mara sobbed. They'll kill all of us if we stay. Weston grabbed Elena's sleeve. They're flanking. We have seconds. The armored silhouettes raised their rifles, red targeting beams dancing across the snow toward them. Elena dragged Mara behind a fallen tree as the forest erupted with stun fire. Blue arcs cut through branches, exploding bark into sparks. The masked figure lay motionless. Mara cried into her gloves. Why does everyone who helps us die? He's not dead, Wesson whispered. His breath fogged weakly. But if they take him, they'll make sure he never speaks again. Elena peeked over the log. They were closing in fast. No escape path. No cover left. No ammo to fight. Only one option. Follow me, Elena said. Into the ravine. It's a dead drop. If we time the slide right, we'll survive. And if we don't, Wesson wheezed. We die quickly, Elena answered. Blue stun bursts tore through the log, showering them with splinters. Elena grabbed Mara and Wesson by the arms. Jump! She flung them over the edge, just as a precise, surgical stun shot hit the exact spot where they had been standing. The world vanished beneath them. Snow, ice, falling, and above, faint but clear, the cold, distorted voice of one of the armored men. The girl is close. Do not let her reach the lower woods. The fall felt endless. Snow hammered Elena's face as she and Mara tumbled down the ravine's icy slope. Wesson slid beside them, half conscious, his arms limp as gravity swallowed them whole. Elena twisted mid-slide, using her boots to angle their descent away from jagged rocks jutting like broken teeth along the walls. Keep your arms in, she shouted. The wind ripped her words apart, but Mara heard enough to tuck herself tight, rolling into a protective curl. The slope steepened into a near-vertical drop. Elena braced. Wham! They hit a drift so deep it swallowed them whole. Snow engulfed Elena's face, freezing her lungs for a choking second before she dug upward, gasping. Mara! She yelled, scrambling through the drift. A muffled voice answered. I'm here, I'm okay. Elena pulled her out, brushing snow from her hair. Mara shivered violently, but was unhurt. Wesson lay half-buried nearby, groaning as Elena freed him. His breath was shallow, and the cold was worsening the blood seeping through his bandages. Above them, voices echoed faintly from the ravine rim. Scan the slope. Check for movement. Asset cannot be lost. The soldiers' flashlights skimmed across the top edge, but the ravine walls were too steep for easy descent. They wouldn't risk a fall, not unless they were desperate. Elena pulled Mara and Wesson beneath an overhang of rock, shielding them from both the cold and the line of sight above. Are they going to jump down? Mara whispered, teeth chattering. No, Elena said. They'll circle to find a safer entry point. How long do we have? Minutes. Wesson coughed, a thin line of blood trailing from the corner of his mouth. Elena, we have to reach the lower woods. Elena nodded. The masked man said the same thing. No, Wesson corrected weakly. He warned them, not us. What do you mean? Wesson gripped her sleeve, eyes wide with something beyond fear. They don't want her reaching the lower woods. That means something down there can help her. Mara's breath hitched. But why me? Before Wesson could answer, a crackling static noise filled the air. Elena froze. It wasn't from the soldiers above. It was coming from deeper inside the ravine. A low-frequency pulse rolled through the snow, vibrating the ground like a buried generator coming to life. Mara clutched her head with a soft groan. It hurts. Elena steadied her. What is it? Tell me what you feel. It's not pain, Mara whispered. It's like someone's calling from underground. Elena and Wesson exchanged a look. The masked figure had said, Keep her above ground. If they take her beneath again, you lose her. Again, meaning this had happened before. The pulse deepened, turning rhythmic like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. Snow began sliding off the ravine walls as the vibrations intensified. The soldiers above noticed. What the hell is that? One voice barked. Thermal spike. Something's opening under the snow. Opening. Elena grabbed Mara's arm. Move. Now. The ground beneath them trembled, then split along a narrow seam. Steam rose in plumes as warm air escaped from below. A hidden infrastructure. A buried facility. Something forgotten or deliberately buried. A circular hatch, coated in frost and dirt, began to reveal itself. Mara stumbled back. No, I don't want to go under. He said. I know. Elena said firmly. We're not going down there unless we have absolutely no choice. A shout echoed from above. They're directly below. Prepare descent cables. Elena cursed under her breath. The soldiers were lowering gear to rappel. They were minutes away from reaching them. Wesson tugged her sleeve. Elena, if they catch us, they'll take her back below. You heard them. Elena looked from Mara to the hatch, to the soldiers' silhouettes beginning their descent. Every choice was bad, but one was worse. The hatch groaned open another inch as the pulsing grew louder, as if whatever was beneath was waking up. Mara whispered, something's inside. Something ancient. The pulse matched her heartbeat. The soldiers' ropes hit the ravine floor. Elena made her decision in one breath. Wesson, Mara, on your feet. We're heading toward the lower woods, not down. She jerked her head toward the far end of the ravine where a narrow break in the rocks led deeper into the forest. Move before they see us. They stumbled through the snow, half dragging Wesson, keeping to the shadows cast by the ravine walls. Behind them, soldiers landed on the snow with metallic thuds. Tracks. 3 people. Going east. Then, a sound rose behind them from the opening hatch. A low, unnatural moan, like metal bending under immense pressure, or a voice echoing from a place no human should be. Mara stopped, trembling violently. Elena, whatever that is, it knows me. Elena grabbed her hand tighter. Then we don't let it reach you. They fled into the ravine's dark corridor, as something stirred beneath the snow behind them. Something that had waited years for the girl, now running through the dark. Spring thawed the valley, melting the snow from the rooftops of Hollow Ridge. Life returned slowly. Children played in the streets again. The bakery reopened, and hikers wandered near the foothills, carefully avoiding the sealed paths that led to the mountain's ruins. In Elena and Mara's small cabin, sunlight warmed the kitchen table where Mara sorted through old journals. Her hands were steadier now. Her nightmares had faded. Her smile came more easily. Elena entered, wiping grease from her hands. Generators fixed again. I swear that thing hates me. Mara smirked. It just likes attention. They shared a quiet moment, comfortable, safe. Something neither had believed they'd ever feel again. Then Mara opened one last notebook. Inside, sketches. Big hands. Glowing eyes. A towering figure standing protectively beside them. Elena froze. You kept these. Mara nodded. He deserves to be remembered. Elena sat beside her, gently closing the book. He is. They looked out the window, toward the green valley and the flowers beginning to bloom. The core was gone. The secrets were gone. The darkness was gone. What remained was a world they finally had the freedom to choose for themselves. A world hard won. A world built on sacrifice. A world ready for them to live in. Together.